All right, so today we're going to cover both multiplying and dividing integers. Okay, now the first thing that we have here is I'm going to fill in the blanks here for a couple of rules for how you're going to remember how to do these. Okay, but honestly, I don't really like rules very much. I find that I forget them. If I just have to memorize a rule about how math works, I'm going to forget it. So what I like to use instead is this lovely picture over here. So we're going to talk about both. If you get a little lost in the rules and you find them confusing or hard, don't worry about it. We're going to use that picture instead. But if you like the rules, great, we'll use that. Okay, so here's what our rules are for multiplying and dividing. They're pretty simple. First rule is that if both of the signs are the same, so if they're both the same, so they're both plus signs or both minus signs, then your answer is always positive. If there's one of each sign, so one's a positive and one's a negative, then your answer is always negative. Okay, now this only works for multiplying and dividing. Remember when we did adding and subtracting, we used our fires and buckets of water to help us? Okay, and that really depends on the situation. But multiplying and dividing is really easy. It's just these two rules. Okay, now if you can't remember that, here's where our multiplication division bear comes in play. Okay, so you can see he's got the multiplication and division in his ears to help you remember that this is only for multiplying and dividing. He's kind of squinty. These are like his eyes and that's his mouth. All right, so here's how you use it. If you have a problem and you have two negative numbers, you cover up what you have, and the one that you can see left over is the sign of your answer. So if I have two negative signs, that means my answer is going to be positive. If I have one negative sign and one positive sign, I'm going to cover up a negative and a positive, then my answer is negative. If I have a positive sign and a negative sign, a positive and a negative, my answer is negative. Okay, so you can use that picture to help you remember. So let's look at this example right here. So 10 divided by negative 2. So the first thing that you have to do is do 10 divided by 2. Okay, so 10 divided by 2, hopefully you know the answer to that already. If you don't, you can always work the problem out, right? You've got 10 dots, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And you want to split them into two equal groups. So I'd say, okay, well, I'm going to have these 4 and then this one extra over here. That'll be one group. And then I could do these 4 with this one extra. And there's 5 each. So that's 5. Okay, so that part's easy. 10 divided by 2 is 5. And then I'm going to take this and I'm going to use either my rule or my picture. If I'm going to use my picture, the first number is positive and the next number is negative. So I've got one positive and one negative. That means that the sign of my answer should be negative. So my answer is negative 5. Okay, if you want to use these rules up here, in this case, there is one of each sign. So the answer is negative. All right, let's look at this one. So 15 divided by 3. So I have 15 and I split it into 3 different pieces. Right? That's going to be 5. So 15 divided by 3 is 5. Okay. And then I've got a negative and another negative. So I've got a negative and another negative. That means my answer is positive. Or you could look at the rule and say, in this one, both the signs are the same. So the answer has to be positive. All right, let's look down here. So negative 6 times 3. So negative 6 times 3. 6 times 3 is actually my favorite multiplication problem. So I know that 6 times 3 is 18. But if you didn't know that, you could do it out on your fingers, right? Count by threes. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. There we go. All right, and I've got a negative and a positive. So if I have one that's a negative and one that's a positive, my answer is going to be negative. So my answer is negative 18. Or you could use your rule and say there's one of each sign, so the answer has to be negative. All right, last one, negative 1 times 4. 1 times anything, that's always really easy, right? 1 times 4 is just 4. And then I have a negative and another negative. So I have a negative and another negative. My answer is positive, so it's positive 4. Or you could use the fact that both signs are the same, so the answer has to be positive. Okay, and that's it. Multiplying and dividing with integers is really easy as long as you either remember those two easy rules or you remember your multiplication division pair.